The member for Moncrieff.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. I refer the Prime Minister to her repeated statement that the carbon tax will affect the top 1,000 emitters, and I refer her to reports now, just 3 days out from the announcement, the Prime Minister has cut that to 500. Have 500 companies suddenly stopped emitting greenhouse gases, Prime Minister, or are the Australian people only being told half the bad news?
Order. The Prime Minister. Order. The question has been asked. The Prime Minister has the call. Should be heard in silence. Prime Minister.
Thanks.
The Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Order. The Prime Minister has the call.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for his question. And let me explain to the member that coverage decisions have been made which do reduce the number of big businesses who will be paying the price for their carbon pollution.
Order.
The biggest polluters, the biggest 500 polluters, will be, under the scheme, required to pay a price for the carbon pollution they generate. That
member
is,
for Tangney.
our plan is to make polluters pay. The Leader of the Opposition's plan is to make Australian families pay. And so, in making those decisions about coverage, the number of big polluters who are paying has been reduced. But I'd have to say, Mr Speaker, I detect a theme across the Opposition's questions today. I detect an emerging theme. There are some days you come in here and you've got absolutely no idea what they're on about, but today I can tell what they're on about. They're on about their sense of disappointment because they have spent months and months and months trying to raise fear about carbon pricing. And now I think we can see written on their faces
the member for
as
Tangney
more
is
and more details become clear about the scheme that they can feel it. They can feel that their scare campaign is not going to be able to be sustained.
Her place. Prime Minister. Order. The member for Moncrieff on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The point of order is relevance. I asked why 500 companies have suddenly stopped emitting greenhouse gases.
The member for Moncrieff will resume his place. Order. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. And in answering the member's question and explaining the coverage changes that have been made in the scheme as compared with the carbon pollution reduction scheme, Mr Speaker, what I increasingly sense is a sense of disappointment from the opposition. They wanted to have their petrol price scare campaign. The Leader of the Opposition was already out claiming 6.5 cents a litre, and he was dead wrong. They wanted to have a campaign about how wide the scheme was covering, and now they can see that scare campaign shrivelling before their eyes because, as usual, they've been dead wrong. They wanted to have a cost of living scare campaign. They wanted to be out there scaring Australian families about the impacts of carbon pricing. And now, of course, it's clear 9 out of 10 households will get tax cuts or payment increases, which should actually lead the opposition to say to itself how irresponsible they have been over the last year, trying to scare Australians, making things up as we get on with pricing carbon in the most responsible way. We will cut carbon pollution. We will get the big polluters to pay. We will protect Australian jobs. We will provide tax cuts and payment increases. We will get this job done in a Labor way driven by our Labor values. Meanwhile, the Leader of the Opposition is hostage to sceptics. He's determined to rip assistance off Australian families. He wants to put an extra $720 a year tax on them. He wants to go around scaring Australians about the prospects of their jobs. Well, Mr Speaker, we are a confident, creative nation. We have been up to the big challenges in the past. We'll be up to this big challenge, and the Leader of the Opposition increasingly will be exposed as someone who went about generating fear with hollow and untruthful claims, and is someone who is not ready to lead this nation. No ideas for the future, just relentless negativity and the saying of no, no and no.